All right, this is the Purple Huddle. As usual, I am your host, Josh Fry, the managing editor over at purpleptsd.com. You can find all sorts of written content over there about all the Vikings happenings over the course of the offseason, the NFL draft, NFL free agency, all sorts of speculation going on. So be sure to check out the website for that written content all over the place, podcasts galore, all sorts of stuff happening over on that website. So be sure to tune in over there. But for now, I'm coming to you guys in a little bit of a different fashion. Usually, I just do a live stream and let you guys hop into the comments and ask me some questions, chat with you guys a little bit about what's going on. But today, I figured I'd record a little bit of a video because it's Super Bowl week and Radio Row is going on. All the stars are coming out and showing up in full force. And one of those stars is Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. He joined Adam Schein on the Mad Dog Sports Radio show on Wednesday to talk about his contract. This is a topic that has been discussed for about a year now. Ever since he became contract extension eligible last offseason, people have been talking about how much he's going to get paid, when it's going to happen, is he going to stay with the Vikings, all sorts of stuff with that. And this is really one of the first times this offseason that we've gotten a little bit of an update on what's going on there. Obviously, Kwesi mentioned it in the postseason press conference that they did back in January. But since then, it's kind of been radio silence on that front. And Jefferson kind of came out in full force today and talked about what he expects with that contract and what he wants it to be moving forward. Get things started. It's a little bit of a different quote than a little bit of a different tactic than what we've seen with Jefferson in the past. He was really straightforward about it. He said, I've got the quotes on my phone here, so I'm looking away from the camera. That's what I'm looking at right now. Basically, he just said, I want to break the bank and I want to be a part of an organization that wants me and to really give me what I deserve. I don't think any of that part is really breaking news. I think people ever since he joined the NFL and started popping off with huge games and huge performances, huge seasons. Basically, everybody's just assumed that he's going to get a massive contract when that extension does happen. So I don't think that this is necessarily a really different part than anything that we really assumed. It's always kind of been like he's going to be the number one paid wide receiver in the NFL. It's just a matter of when it happens and which team it happens. And for the where it gets a little bit different is in the past, Jefferson has kind of been a little bit laissez-faire in terms of this contract. He went through the entire offseason last year, basically without putting up much of a fuss in regards to his contract. He showed up to mandatory minicamp. Obviously, he missed OTAs, but that wasn't because of the contract. It was because of a prior obligation. And then he went to training camp, went throughout the regular season, and was basically like, hey, I'm just here to help the team win in whatever way I can. Money doesn't matter right now. But this is a little bit different. He's kind of just coming out and saying, yeah, I want to get paid. It's time for me to get paid. And he went on to say, I feel like eventually the Vikings will do what they need to do to have me in the building, but I don't really know that at this very moment. Only time will tell. And that's kind of where people have started to run with this interview a little bit. You'll probably over the next few days see a bunch of headlines on Twitter or whatever social media platform you're using, where it's like, is Justin Jefferson going to ask for a trade from the Vikings? Is he going to leave the Vikings? Are the Vikings going to fumble the bag on this one? Um, and I mean, those concerns might be valid, but I don't necessarily think it's time to freak out about Justin Jefferson's contract just yet. And I'm going to lay out a few reasons why. First and foremost, Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell have both said in the past that they want Justin Jefferson on the Minnesota Vikings. They've made it very clear. And while the contract hasn't been signed yet, I don't think I don't think that mindset has changed in the front office and on the coaching staff. Justin Jefferson means a ton to that offense. Without him, they really don't have a true foundational piece of that wide receiver room. I know Jordan Addison's great, but he's not Justin Jefferson, at least not yet. So Justin Jefferson means a lot to that offense, and the Vikings obviously want to keep him around. But in terms of Jefferson's approach and why it's kind of become a little bit more direct, I think there are reasons for that as well. I mean, obviously, he's a year closer to free agency at this point. Last year was kind of a little bit down the road still, but at this point, we're 13 months away from him hitting free agency, and he still doesn't have that contract. So I think, especially with some things going on at the start of the offseason, obviously, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell were both at the Senior Bowl this week. maybe talks just haven't been as often or as regular as Jefferson would like, and he's kind of just trying to re-engage those talks as just to put him back at the forefront of the Vikings' mind a little bit ahead of free agency, because the offseason is only going to get busier. Free agency is going to happen in March in a few weeks, and then the draft is happening right after that in April. So things are definitely going to start heating up, and maybe the Vikings just haven't been in as much consistent communication with him as of late as he would like, and he just wants to get back to the forefront of their mind. I'm not claiming to have any insider information on that. That's just a little bit of speculation on my end as to why he might be doing this. Another part is I think that hamstring injury he had last year was a little bit of a wake up call for him, where he missed half the season. He was on the sideline, and maybe he took a step back and realized, like, hey, if I go into next year and I don't have a contract, and injuries happen all the time in the NFL, you never really know when they're going to start popping up. And if he were to get hurt again next year, obviously I'm not hoping for that or wishing for that. I'm just saying, if he were to get hurt again, it would definitely impact his free agency value if he didn't have a contract already locked down. So I think the sooner that Jefferson gets his contract is the better, at least for him and his camp. So I think that's another reason why I think maybe the talks haven't been as regular as he'd like them, and that injury probably played a little bit of a role in it. So I think that those are two main factors as to why he's kind of changed his approach a little bit to being a little bit more direct rather than being when it happens, when it happens, so I think that's kind of why things have changed. But at the end of the day, Justin Jefferson wants to be in Minnesota. This is he went on to conclude the interview with Schein, saying, "I definitely am grateful for what Minnesota has done for me. I definitely wouldn't be in this situation if they didn't pick me. With everything that has happened and everything I gave to the organization, of course, I would want to stay. And that's where I've been calling home ever since I got into the league." And I think that should be the main takeaway from this, at least at this point, is Justin Jefferson is still calling Minnesota home. That hasn't changed. He wants to be in Minnesota. That's the team that drafted him. That's the team that gave him a shot at the NFL and living his dream. And I think that should be what we really take away from this interview, rather than running with the first couple quotes that we see and be like, oh my goodness, Justin Jefferson's going to ask for a trade. Oh my goodness, he's not going to re-sign with the Vikings. I don't think that's going to happen. I think at the end of the day, the Vikings want him in Minnesota. I think Justin Jefferson wants to be in Minnesota. And obviously, Justin Jefferson recognizes that Minnesota is a team that gave him a chance at the NFL level. There were certainly questions about him going into that draft. I mean, there's a reason why he was a fifth wide receiver off the board in 2020, rather than being one of the top two or three. There were questions of, hey, is he just a slot guy? Can he play on the boundary? Is he too small? And kudos to him. He's done a great job of proving every single naysayer wrong in that department, but also kudos to the Vikings for taking a chance on him. And especially in the immediate aftermath of trading away Stephon Diggs, being like, hey, you're the guy we believe in. You're the guy that we feel like can be a wide receiver one in this league. And of course, Jefferson has lived up to every single expectation that the Vikings have had for him over the past few years. And I think he's going to continue to do so. I don't think the trade's going to happen. I think it would be really premature for the Vikings to trade him away, especially if it's just for, I mean, maybe the third overall pick with New England or something, and then they're giving away number 11 and maybe another future pick or something like that, like some people have tried to conjure up in their minds. I think Kwesi has said in the past that he wants to take the rebuild out of the competitive rebuild that the Vikings have been in since he was hired as GM. And if they trade Justin Jefferson away along with picks just to move up in this year's draft, I don't think there's any competitive or rebuild in that mindset. I think Justin Jefferson is a franchise cornerstone in the Vikings offense that they can build around. He takes a ton of pressure off the wide receivers in that room and TJ Hawkinson. And then he also makes things a lot easier for Kirk Cousins. And if the Vikings are going to move on from Kirk Cousins and put in a young quarterback in that system, then why would you trade away Justin Jefferson? He's going to be the guy that makes that young quarterback's job so much easier. So I don't think that makes a ton of sense. I think that this deal is ultimately going to get done. And I just wanted to hop on here for a few minutes and try to ease any of the nerves that Vikings fans might be having because, hey, we go through enough nerve-wracking days throughout the regular season that we don't need them during the Super Bowl week when the Vikings aren't even playing. I just wanted to hop on here and sort of ease the nerves a little bit. I don't think Justin Jefferson is going to be traded. I don't think we need to be freaking out about his comments on Wednesday because they're at the end of the day, they're all very valid. He wants to get the big bucks. He deserves the big bucks. And if the Vikings aren't going to give him the big bucks, then he has every single right to look elsewhere. And considering that the deal isn't locked in yet, hasn't been signed, he has to keep his options open. He really doesn't have a choice other than to do that. But I think at the end of the day, both sides want the deal to get done, and it will get done. But yeah, that's about all I have for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Leave us a like. Comment if you have any of your own thoughts on what these Jefferson comments might mean. Do you think Justin Jefferson's going to get an extension? How much do you think it's going to be? All sorts of stuff. I mean, there's going to be so many speculations around the Vikings over the next few weeks that I just wanted to come on here and ease at least one of them if I can. I don't think Justin Jefferson's going to get traded. I mean, maybe in a few months we'll look back on this video and I'll be absolutely wrong and the Vikings did trade Justin Jefferson for the 3rd overall pick or whatever. But at this point in time, I really do not think that's going to happen. I think both sides recognize, at least the Vikings recognize that they need Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson recognizes that the Vikings want him in that building. So yeah, that's about it. I'm Josh Fry. Check out purpleptsd.com, and I will see you guys next time.